Now we will continue with the second part of today. And Irena Borić and Matiwos Tumzghi, please if you can join me here, will present, this is what I mentioned already, non-formal educational project, which is designed also, it's a European supported project which works through different approaches with for developing a critical voice of an individual. But I was also, it's interesting, we discussed this already with Irena in our private time. What are also the emancipatory potentials of this kind of projects? But I'll give the word to you and just a few more words. And Irena is an art historian and curator, and you were also one of the curators of the previous graphic biennial, and you've been working on a lot of group shows, curated group shows and projects also in Zagreb, Maribor and Ljubljana, also did a lot of curatorial residencies such as in Helsinki and Vienna. And Matiwos, you're a teacher of math and science, right, and chemistry and physics. And you are coming from Eritrea, and you now live and work in Maribor, and you work, you participate in this project of seventh voice, Sedmi glas. Okay, thank you.
Yes, as Živa mentioned, I'm also art historian, so it's like this is the way. Yeah, but it is the way I approach the whole thing, so it's not this kind of activist or sociological perspective, but rather it is basically from art field. So the whole program, Sedmi glas, is lasting for a year. Started in December and it's gonna end by the end of the November. It is organized by Pekarna Magdalenske Mreže Maribor, and it is conceived by Lucia Smodiš and me. So when we started to think about the project, which would be educational and kind of dedicated to minorities living in Maribor, we were thinking about seventh voice or Sedmi glas, because one part of it, just from the name, is kind of referring to Sedma sila or journalism, and the other part of the name is actually coming from John Berger's seventh man, which actually stands for migrant worker in the 60s, and every manual worker in the 60s was actually a migrant. But that's actually also like quite specific position, in a sense of being a migrant worker at that time meant that you kind of live in a country where you don't really participate in political or social life, but rather you are somehow invisible, even though you spend whole life there basically. And then again, the way you could kind of be part of society and so on is like somewhere else, the country which you left to kind of, you know, find a better work and all that. So this is the reason why we wanted to kind of combine the two, because the project is actually dedicated to gaining knowledge on art, but through reflection on art. And we took it, even though Lucia and me are coming from visual arts, we focused within the project on all different kinds of arts, from music, theater, to film and the visual arts, but it is conceived in a way that we have a practical workshop, which is, let's say, dedicated to literary criticism or art criticism or music criticism. And the people who are doing these workshops are people who are already accomplished in this field. So for example, we had some prominent Slovenian critics who were doing the workshops. And on the other hand, every week, aside from the workshop, we meet and then we go to visit a certain cultural event, which is happening or taking place in Maribor. And in that way, we are also trying to kind of address the fact that there is not really any critic existing in Maribor, and it's very rare that that there is certain events that are even written about, or even some kind of more reflection than announcement, especially like, I mean, if it's the media based in Ljubljana, then Maribor is somehow out of the map. So this is, let's say, some of the axes of the whole project. And as I said, the project is ongoing. And this is why maybe it's very difficult to reflect on it. And it's also very hard to say like what is the actual gain for the ones who are participating. Our idea was, of course, to gain the symbolic capital, which is usually something where you don't really have an access to. For example, if you go to the usual Slovene course, you will not really have the, you know, higher level Slovene. You will have the basics. And we also have like a proofreader, proofreading, which is in Slovene, so which allows you, if you are interested, to you can write and then you can practice and get the higher language skill if you want. For example, here you can see the blog which we started. So, but then it's very different. Some participants don't feel like writing at all, or kind of participating in these kind of theoretical workshops. Some are quite happy about it. It's very varies. Some find more interest in this or that. It really depends. So one part of the gain could be like this social capital, and on the other side, what we would like to achieve is to avoid social exclusion. Meaning, if somebody is a minority who doesn't have a big social circle, this is maybe opportunity to kind of meet new people, but also to start going to the places which are maybe feeling intimidating, because yeah, well, contemporary art can function sometimes like ivory tower. But the thing is that actually, but what I found interesting is that exactly at these kind of places, certain issues which are like quite political and social can actually be tackled in a way in which in no other field can be kind of addressed in that way. So yeah, basically that's it. And I don't know, when it comes to the whole kind of resume, I think it's impossible to kind of give it now, and I think maybe this is something we will be able to know what we actually did in several years. But it's also what we learned, that when it comes to education, I mean, if it's not constant and continuous, then it's really like easily to get lost, because one workshop is really not enough. We kind of just scratch certain things, but then you have to kind of do something about it. So let's see how it evolves. So if you want to say something from your perspective.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for invitation to the conference. When I contacted to the Sedmi glas since December, I am attending still now. It is the school for me. And Sedmi glas is organizing by Irena and Ulisa. Different people are participating in this project. So the project is almost artsy and culture, and in different area of this Maribor, there are a lot of activities like film, performance, theater, workshop, so on. So those activities are, if I had no idea about this artists because I was a teacher mathematics. I don't know everything about the society or how to interact the people or something is, but at this time I understood more information, more educations from these Sedmi classes participating in this different activities which are like what you call especially like photograph is how establishing photograph, how is the radio station also, how journalists are reports for some things. So many things I learned before. So it is important for me. I got the function of for the Sedmi class and the activities are, it is good for me. Thank you.
Now we're already a little bit late because you also have to go, and we will also, all of us, shortly move to G22. But just maybe if someone has any comments or questions, or maybe knows about similar programs. And Micha.
Irena, you're from Zagreb. But I understand there are news from Zagreb coming that education of migrants, even informal education of migrants is being I want to say criminalized, but that volunteers don't have access, that volunteers worked with children don't have access anymore to schools and to teach them language and basic skills. So I was wondering, do you ever, you work now in Maribor, but did you work on something similar in Zagreb? And if not, why not? And if you tried, what would be the differences in this just cross-border? And the other second question was, which was very fascinating. You said you invited prominent Slovene critics. I have never heard this phrase before, so can you explain this a bit?
Thank you, Micha.
Well, okay, these prominent Slovene critics, in our opinion, prominent Slovene critics. So, like, for example, Mojca Pišek was giving 2 workshops. One was on literary critic and one was on creative writing. And then there was Vesna Lemajić who did a workshop on creative writing. And then there was Mario Batelić, he did a music criticism workshop. So for example, Kaja Kraner gave a workshop on art criticism. So in that sense, well, I said prominent because we think they are quite good in what they're doing. I mean, it's not in a sense of being ever present in the media. Yeah, that is true. I'm aware of it. And when it comes to Zagreb and Maribor, well, I live in Maribor, so that's the thing, you know. I'm not. it's that's the thing, and it's also with Sedmi Glas. Maybe I didn't explain enough that it's not only about migrants. Actually, it's all about minorities. So, for example, we had participants in our program who are actually born in Slovenia, but they have certain background. And for example, one girl she's from Albania, and for her it was very interesting, and she's quite young. And for her it was very interesting to kind of, because she's aware of this Albanian background and it's quite present for her and so on. And then, you know, she's also aware of the fact that she's minority, even though she doesn't appear that way because her language is perfect. But so in that sense, it's like we have like a group that is mixed in a sense of like some of the participants, a lot of them is from former Yugoslavia, and they have different level of, I don't know, education, but also level of language skills. So in a way, it's a different, yeah, it's just different, how to say, input, let's say. But still, I think it's quite interesting what are the things happening along the way. And yeah, and the language for us at the beginning, it was really difficult, especially because some participants from Eritrea were not speaking any Slovene or English. So Matiwos was engaged immediately as a translator. So we had like really long attempts of you know, okay, let's do literal criticism, you know. So it was really like difficult. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's difficult in whatever language. And then we also did dealing a little bit with going with the language thing. So, but yeah. Also, maybe I wanted to mention, because you said mathematics, right? Also, other participants are actually from all other fields, not art.
Yes, I have a problem for the explain for the language. English is not perfect to skills English, but I understood somehow. Sorry for that.
No, come on. We'll understand each other, and that's the point here anyway.
In Slovenian, we don't understand each other.
Okay. But yeah, I learned more languages from this audience also when they speak English also. How the English they speak also, yeah. It is all right.
But for you, it's also probably very different, kind of, you know, you as a science teacher, and now entering this field of art, you know.
Yeah, few words is there in the sense. Maybe psychology or some this economics, more, especially arts school is you can speak more English, but science is few words you cannot develop with this language.
I just wanted to say that I really like how Lucia and Irena have set up the program, because usually when you involve minorities or migrants, it's you use or we tend to use always this self-exotization and also lots of you know, like manual creative things. And they have when they were thinking about how to prepare the program, they were really thinking how to, through art, you can also analyze the society and the personal circumstances or political circumstances that individuals are in. So I think this is something that is very important and has to be involved more in when working with minorities, not to just, you know, force them. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, and also to be able to use art not only as art per se, but to analyze this, to learn to see artistic experience as a definition and or problem analyzing.
Thank you, Urška, who is also working in Pekarna Magdalenske Mreže, who actually organizes the program Sedmi, glas. So it's already 7 and something, and I know it wasn't announced in the program, and it's not written in the program, but yesterday Miha had an excellent idea, because we realized, of course, that there is festival of migrant film in GT 22. So we suggest that we switch the program, so maybe we can see the exhibition tomorrow if someone is still here, and that maybe we all head out to GT 22 to see the short films, and Nijara Ahmetašević, who also gave a lecture yesterday, or presentation, and spoke about the current conditions in Bosnia, with the especially in Tuzla and Bihać. We'll also have a short presentation. She will also be joined by Dimitar Anakio, who is a doctor who worked in Velika Kladuša, and yesterday spoke about the situation in Bosnia from the aspect of offering, or rather we say denying, the health care to the refugees and migrants in different camps, or Bosnia in general. So I would here like to thank again all of the guests of our 2 days. Thank you, Irena and Matiwos and Irfan and Nijara and and of course Dimitar here. And a lot of people had to go, unfortunately, already due to their work obligations and so on. But thank you again to Civil Initiative Infokolpa, and of course our Simon here, and Diana, and all team from Association XOP and Kibla. And of course all of you who came to listen and to participate and just to share knowledge, let's say. So thank you again, and hope to see you next time in Maribor. I mean, Risk Change is a project that is still on for 1.5 years, and hopefully we'll continue with topics addressing these urgencies that we also talk about in this kind of context. And just a quick question, is Seventh Voice Sedmi, glas going to finish in the fall, or are you continuing it also with another edition?
For now it's gonna finish. So then we will see what...
Of course, the question of funding.
Yeah. That's always the question, so we'll see how it goes. But, I mean, we have some plans, but it's too early to talk about this. Yeah.
Okay, not to jinx it. So thank you, and let's go to GT, okay? Thank you.